The bright neon sign buzzed in the damp night, drawing lost souls to the old Searist motel for shelter or indulgence. I adjusted my name tag John, a simple alias, as I started my shift. Nights here were filled with secrets, and I knew more than my share. It was a job I hadn't told my wife, Clara, about. The motel had a questionable reputation, and I kept my work hidden out of shame. Just after midnight, the bell above the door chimed. The wind whispered through the half-open window, carrying the ocean's salt and distant waves. I glanced up, prepared to greet the new guests with practiced indifference, but my words caught in my throat. My heart pounded painfully as I recognized the woman entering. Even beneath her wide-brimmed hat and oversized sunglasses. It was Clara, my wife. She wasn't alone. With her was a man, tall and broad-shouldered, his face hidden under a cap's shadow. They didn't notice me at first, lost in their quiet laughter and intimate gestures. A cold knot tightened in my stomach. This couldn't be real, I thought. They approached the desk, and I ducked down slightly, pretending to rummage through some paperwork, my mind racing. I watched them through the veil of brochures and fake potted plants, my heart pounding in my ears. Room 19. Please. The man's voice was deep, smooth like polished stone. I almost didn't recognize it through the haze of my shock. Certainly, I replied, my voice a foreign whisper, masked by the persona of John, handed over the key with a trembling hand. The man didn't notice. But Clara's fingers brushed mine. A touch that once sparked joy now burned like ice. As they turned towards their room, a reckless impulse seized me. I needed to know, to see for myself. The jingle of keys on my belt felt heavy as I slipped the spare for room 19 into my pocket, and it felt like hours as I waited, watching the clock tick its slow, mocking rhythm. Finally, mustering every ounce of courage and dread, I crept down the dimly lit hallway, the musty carpet muffling my steps. My heart raced as I approached room 19, the sound of muffled laughter and unfamiliar music leaking through the door. The spare key trembled in my hand as I unlocked the door, barely breathing. The scene before me froze. My blood a tableau of betrayal. An image so contrary to the woman I thought I knew. The masked man was there, an array of shadows and whispers engrossed in their play. Panic, pain, and a surge of anger washed over me. But above all, a dark resolve began to form. I stepped back, quietly closing the door, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. I thought about getting revenge as I walked back to the front desk, each step heavier than the last. Here's what happened next. At the front desk, my mind was a mess of thoughts, like a stormy sea crashing inside me when I saw Clara in room 19. Anger bubbled up. But I knew I needed more than just emotions. I needed help, information, and a plan. Suddenly, the door chimed again, interrupting my thoughts. It was Mel, the night janitor. An older man who seemed to know everything about everyone at the seaside. His eyes, wrinkled and wise, held many untold stories. Quiet night. John, he greeted me with his growly voice. Mel, can we talk? I asked urgently, lowering my voice. We stepped into the small break room, the fluorescent light flickering above us. I glanced around to make sure we were alone before leaning in. I need your help, I whispered. There's a guest in room 19. Mel raised his eyebrows, suddenly serious. What about them? I hesitated. Then the truth spilled out. It's Clara, my wife, and she's not alone. Mel's eyes widened slightly, then a look of understanding crossed his face. I see, he said slowly. And you want to know what I can do? I need to know who the man is with her, and I need to make sure no one else knows I'm asking. Mel nodded, scratching his chin thoughtfully. Give me a couple of hours. I have friends who might help figure this out. Grateful, I watched him leave. my heart slightly lighter. But as I returned to the desk, another figure approached. This one younger, her sharp heels clicking ominously against the tile floor. She was a striking woman, red hair framing her face like a halo of fire. Her eyes sharp and discerning. I recognize her instantly. Valerie, a local private investigator known for her discretion and effectiveness. "John, isn't it?" she began, her voice smooth and confident. "I've heard you might need some assistance. Mel says you're a good guy." I was taken aback. "How do you?" Valerie smiled thinly. "Mel and I go way back. He thinks you might need more help than he can offer." "What's the trouble?" Swallowing my surprise, I debated my options quickly. Valerie's reputation was impeccable, and her skills could be invaluable. "It's my wife," I confessed, lowering my voice even though we were alone. "She's here with someone. I need to know why." Valerie nodded, her face betraying no emotion. "I can help with that. Surveillance, information gathering. You name it. But I'll need something from you in return." "Anything," I said. Desperation seeping through. "Good. I'm working on a case unrelated, but I need access to some of the motel's records." "Discreetly, of course." "Deal," I agreed quickly. Too caught up in my turmoil to consider the consequences. "Excellent," Valerie replied, a sharp edge to her smile. "Let's get to work then. I'll start tonight. You'll have answers by morning." As she disappeared into the shadows of the motel, a part of me felt like I was making a deal with the devil. But desperate times called for desperate measures. I sat back at the desk, the night no longer quiet, my mind buzzing with plans. Time passed slowly at the Cirrus Motel lobby. I kept checking the security camera feeds, hoping to spot Valerie or Clara and her friend leave their room. The screen stayed frustratingly calm. Around 3:00 in the morning, the door near room 19 opened quietly. Valerie slipped in almost as silent as the night itself. She had a folder with her, looking serious. Her voice was quiet but urgent. I nodded and led her to the break room again. "Here's what I found," she said, opening the folder on the table. Photos, documents, and notes were organized neatly inside. "Your wife's companion is Mark Jensen. He's not just some random guy. He's connected to one of the city's more influential figures." My stomach churned. "Influential how?" Valerie's lips thinned. "Let's just say he's the sort of person who doesn't take kindly to being crossed. And from what I gathered, he and your wife have been seeing each other for more than just tonight." The room seemed to tilt slightly as I absorbed her words. "What do we do now?" "That's up to you," Valerie replied, her gaze sharp. "I can keep digging, or we can take this information and confront them." "No," I said quickly, the idea of confrontation filling me with dread. "Keep digging. I need to know everything before I make a move." Valerie nodded, her expression serious. "All right, but be careful. People like Jensen don't play nice." As she left, the first hints of dawn were creeping across the sky, casting pale light through the dusty windows. I felt trapped in a web, every strand leading to more danger, more secrets. The morning was quiet, the motel finally settling as the guests either left or holed up in their rooms for the day. I used the lull to think, pacing the length of the lobby, trying to piece together my next steps. But the tranquility was short-lived. Just before my shift ended, a car pulled up to the front. It wasn't just any car. It was sleek, black, and expensive, the kind of car that streamed power. The man who stepped out was equally imposing, tall, dressed in a tailored suit. His eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses despite the early hour. He walked straight up to the desk, his presence commanding. "I'm looking for Valerie," he stated. His voice firm. Panic flashed through me, but I kept my face calm. "I'm sorry, "Sir, I don't know anyone with that name." The man looked at me closely, his eyes sharp. "Are you sure?" he asked. "It would be bad if you were lying." "I'm sure," I said again, my heart racing. He nodded slowly, then walked away. His footsteps echoed ominously as he left. I breathed out, realizing I'd been holding my breath. Who was he, and what did he want with Valerie? The question spun in my mind as I clocked out, the weight of the situation settling deeper on my shoulders. I knew one thing for sure. I was in over my head, and the storm was only just beginning. And here's what happens next. The day dragged on, a blur of anxiety and apprehension. Each ring of the phone sent shivers down my spine. Each shadow seemed a specter of threat. By the time my shift at the Seacrest started again, the tension had wound itself around my nerves like ivy. Valerie hadn't contacted me all day, and as the neon lights flickered to life outside, casting ghostly patterns on the motel's walls, the weight of uncertainty grew heavier. I was about to call her when she burst through the door, breathless. Her eyes wide with a mix of excitement and fear. "We need to leave now," she hissed, grabbing my arm and pulling me towards the back door. "What's happening?" I asked, stumbling after her. "Just move," she urged. We ducked into her car parked at the back of the motel. As she revved the engine, she finally spoke. "I've been followed since noon. Jensen's men are not fooling around. They might come here." She peeled out of the parking lot, and I twisted to look behind us. No headlights followed yet. The threat hung in the air like a thick fog. "Where are we going?" I demanded. "To meet someone who can help us end this," she said, eyes focused on the road. Minutes later, we pulled up to a nondescript warehouse. Valerie led me inside where a man awaited, his figure shrouded in shadows. "This is Ethan," she introduced. "He's a federal agent." Ethan stepped forward, his features coming into light. "Valerie has told me everything. We've been investigating Jensen for a while now. Your wife's involvement provided a new lead." My heart sank. "Is she?" "She's being manipulated, John," Ethan explained. "We believe she's a victim in Jensen's schemes." "But why?" I asked, trying to make sense of it all. "Jensen targets vulnerable people. Your marriage problems were convenient for him," Ethan said sympathetically. "What do you need from me?" I felt a whirlwind of emotions: relief, betrayal, anger, and sorrow. "We're raiding Jensen's operations tonight. We need you to confirm some details before we move in," Ethan stated. Hours later, clad in a bulletproof vest, he stood behind the safety of an FBI van as agents swarmed the building that housed Jensen's illicit activities. The air was thick with tension. But when the door finally burst open, the agents filing out had Jensen in cuffs, and to my shock, Clara beside him. She ran to me, tears streaming down her face. "John, I'm so sorry." I was scared he threatened to. I held up my hand, stopping her. The betrayal was too raw, too deep. "I know. We'll talk later." As Jensen passed by, he smirked, a chilling reminder of the danger we'd just escaped. "You think you've won," he sneered. But Ethan was there, a grim smile on his face. "You're done, Jensen." After the chaos settled and the debriefings were done, Clara and I sat in the quiet of our home. "I never meant for any of this," she whispered. "I know," I replied, the words heavy on my tongue. "But we have a lot to fix." She nodded, a fragile hope in her eyes. The doorbell rang unexpectedly, breaking the tentative peace. I opened the door to find Valerie, a small smile playing on her lips. "I thought you might want this," she said, handing me an envelope. Inside were tickets to a secluded island retreat, a chance to start anew. "And here's what happens next," I whispered to myself, closing the door after Valerie. I was ready to face whatever came next together. Second story is my wife, 24F of 5 years cheating. Hey everyone! This is my first post ever and I'm here to ask for some opinions. Sorry if this is a bit long. My wife, 24F, and I, 25 of them, have been married for 5 years now. Like any couple, we've had our ups and downs, but whenever things get tough, she tends to leave. Recently, she's been gone for about 2 weeks, which isn't entirely unusual for us. The last time she left, I found out she and another guy exchanged photos. We were technically separated at the time, but we never really moved past that incident. Initially, when she left this time, things were cordial between us. We still talked and everything seemed okay. But something changed when she returned. We spent a few days together and everything seemed great. But then she got a new phone. After that, she started acting like things weren't improving between us. She became angry, mean, and started ignoring me. She also started criticizing me and attacking my character. I'm really confused about what's happening. I'd appreciate any guidance or advice you can offer. Feel free to ask for more information if needed.